Hello students, this is Sudeep Mazumdar, your science teacher and mentor from Kendriya Vidyalaya number 3 Agra. Today I'll be discussing a very important chapter for class 10 and that is metal and non-metals. As you know, 118 elements are known as on date. These 118 elements are unique because of their properties and they are classified into three types. One is metals, non-metals and metalloids. Metals and non-metals will be discussing in this chapter, but before that I want to tell you something about metalloids. What are metalloids? The elements which behave like metals as well as non-metals are called metalloids. Example, we have boron, silicon, arsenic, to name a few. Now coming to the main chapter, we will be discussing about the physical properties of metals and non-metals. Now on what basis these metals and non-metals will be distinguished, I am listing out the properties. The first property is state. What is state? It is the existence of an element, either it is present as a solid, liquid or gaseous state. Second is luster. Is the element that we are seeing physically has a shine, and that is luster. Luster is shiny surface of an element, it is natural state. Malleability. What is malleability? It is the property of an element by which it can be beaten into thin sheets. Another property is ductility, the property of an element by which it can be drawn into thin wires. Next is property of sonorous. It is the property of an element by virtue of it which produces sound on striking with a hard surface. Density. Density is a measurement that compares the amount of matter an object has to its volume. Heat and electrical conductivity are very important property of element by which we come to know it is transmitting heat or electricity from one point to another or not. Oxides. This is a new word for you. When elements react with oxygen, they form oxide. We'll be discussing in the later part of this chapter. Melting point and boiling point. These are the two temperature at which substance at the first melting point changes from solid to liquid at atmospheric pressure, and boiling point, it is the temperature at which a substance changes from liquid to gaseous state at atmospheric pressure. Now let's first study the physical properties of metal and non-metal on the basis of the different properties which I have just discussed with you. First is state. Metals exist as solid, whereas non-metals, they can be in solid or in gaseous state. Luster, as you know, metals have metallic luster. They have got a shine, whereas non-metals, they are dull. They do not have luster. Malleability, yes, metals can be beaten into thin sheets. We find aluminum sheet, iron sheets in our daily use. Whereas non-metals, they cannot be beaten into their thin sheets. Therefore, they are non-malleable. Ductility is a very important property of metals. Metals can be drawn into thin wires. The electrical wires we see in our daily life, they are all metals. Whereas non-metals, they are non-ductile. Sonorous, a very important property of metal. They produce sound on striking a hard surface. You hear the ringing of the bell in your school every day, whereas non-metals are non-sonorous. Metals are generally hard, whereas non-metals, they are soft or in gaseous state. Density, yes, if metals are hard, the density is more, whereas non-metals have low density. As you know, metals are very good conductors of heat and electricity. Good conductors of heat. We are using this property in daily in our kitchenware. We have kitchen utensils made either of aluminum, iron, copper and electrical wires which we use in daily life. Whereas non-metals, they do not conduct heat and electricity. Oxides. What are the nature of metallic oxide? Metallic oxides are basic in nature, whereas non-metals are acidic in nature. Metals usually have high melting point and boiling point, whereas non-metals have low melting point and boiling point. The world of chemistry is not without exception. Mercury is the only metal which exists at liquid at room temperature. You have seen mercury in clinical thermometer, lab thermometers. Second, metals like gallium and cesium, they have very low melting point. I've just told you that metals, do not have high melting point and high boiling point, but gallium and cesium, as you see in the video, it is just shaking like water. That shows that it has got a very low melting point. Iodine, you have seen iodine. Iodine is formed in form of tincture iodine. The doctors use. Iodine is a non-metal, but interestingly, it has got a shine, which is therefore lustrous. Carbon, a very versatile non-metal, exists in two forms, diamond and graphite. You know what is allotropy? Allotropy is the existence of an element in two different forms. So diamond is the hardest known element, whereas graphite is soft. You have seen graphite, you have experienced writing with a lead pencil, that is graphite. Coming down to the chemical properties of metal, we'll be first discussing reaction of metals with air. As you know, metals combine with oxygen to form metal oxide. I am giving you a general reaction. Metal plus oxygen is metal oxide. The reactivity of a metal towards oxygen depends upon its nature. There is an order of reactivity. If sodium is highly reactive, it shows reaction with air at a very fast rate. Copper is least reactive. Coming down to the reaction of metals with air, I want to tell you a very important, interesting facts. Number one, metals like sodium and potassium, they are so reactive that they are immersed in kerosene oil as they react vigorously with air at room temperature and catch fire easily. Some metals like magnesium, aluminum react slowly with air to form protective oxide layer. Metals like zinc react with oxygen only on strong heating and it burns with a blue flame. Metals like iron react with oxygen on strong heating without burning. And metals like copper react with oxygen very slowly when it is strongly heated for a long time. Metal oxides are basic or amphoteric in nature. Metal oxides are basic or amphoteric in nature depending upon the nature of the metal. Like oxides of metals such as sodium, potassium, calcium are basic in nature, and oxides of metals such as aluminum, zinc are amphoteric in nature. What are amphoteric nature? Those oxides which react with both acids and bases to form salt. The second chemical property which we will be discussing is reaction of metals with water. Again, different metals react with water under different conditions. Now what are those conditions? The water can be cold, the water can be boiling, or we can use steam also. Now to demonstrate this, I have made out a chart. Sodium metal, it reacts with cold water and gives out hydrogen gas. Magnesium metal, it reacts with boiling water. Aluminium, it again reacts with boiling water. Iron reacts with steam and gives hydrogen gas, and copper is unreactive, so it shows no reaction. Now coming to the third property, reaction of metal with dilute acid. Now metals displace hydrogen from dilute acid, but again we have variation. Less reactive metals such as copper, gold, silver do not displace hydrogen from dilute acids, but metals give respective sulfate and chloride salt with dilute sulfuric acid and hydrochloric acid. Metals do not give hydrogen gas with nitric acid because it is a strong oxidizing agent. Now understand this point. With nitric acid, metals do not give hydrogen gas because nitric acid is a strong oxidizing agent that oxidizes hydrogen to water. So metals give water with nitric acid instead of hydrogen gas. So this is a very important exception, that metals will react with hydrochloric acid and sulfuric acid, but there will be no reaction with nitric acid because nitric acid is a strong oxidizing agent. Now I'll explain you the reaction of metal with dilute acid. Suppose we have magnesium. Magnesium shows rapid reaction with dilute hydrochloric acid and forms magnesium chloride and hydrogen. Zinc shows moderate reaction with dilute hydrochloric acid and forms a salt like zinc chloride and hydrogen. Iron shows very slow reaction with dilute hydrochloric acid and forms FeCl2 plus hydrogen. Copper shows no reaction with dilute hydrochloric acid. Now the fourth most important chemical property which I'll be discussing is reaction of metals with other metal salts. Metals react with other metal salt solutions, and this depends upon the reactivity series of metals. Now you should understand what is reactivity series. Reactivity series is a list of metals arranged in order of their decreasing reactivity. Elements like potassium are most reactive, whereas gold is least reactive. If a student understands this reactivity series, he will understand a metal will displace other metals from its salt solution or not. So I hope you have understood the physical and chemical properties which I have just discussed in this video. This is a very important topic. It forms the basis of chemistry and it is also very interesting. Thank you.